Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ready for another deep dive with us?
Always.
We've got a listener who's a big Poe fan,
Nice.
and they're curious about this book that came out
Okay.
in the Shadow of Poe
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one.
by Philip J. Jones, published just this year,
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about this book? What's it all about?
Well, from what I know, it's a collection of short stories,
Okay.
and each story is like a modern adaptation
Okay.
of one of Poe's classic tales.
Oh, that's cool.
So we're talking The Pit and the Pendulum, The Fall of the House of Usher,
Oh,
The Oval Portrait, all the big ones.
So is it just like a straight-up retelling, or is there more to it?
No, it's definitely more than that.
Okay.
Jones takes these classic stories and uses them to look at themes that are like
No.
super relevant today.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so think about isolation,
Ah,
obsession.
yeah.
That whole blurry line between life and death.
Oh, that's classic Poe right there.
Yes, exactly.
Now, I was checking out the dedication in the book.
Yeah.
And I got to say,
What is it?
Jones clearly has a deep respect for Poe.
Oh, for sure.
He calls Poe's work carved from the darkest recesses of the human soul.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful way to put
And
it.
it really sets the stage for the whole book.
Totally. You can feel that reference.
Yeah.
But there's also this sense that he wants to bring these themes
Yeah.
to like a whole new generation.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to talk about one story in particular that really grabbed me.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
The Edge and the Echo.
Interesting choice. Tell me about it.
It's a reimagining of The Pit and the Pendulum.
Whoa. Okay.
But instead of being set in some, like, medieval dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
it takes place in this dystopian future.
I can see where this is going.
So it's a pretty big creative leap.
It is. And that setting is so important. Like,
Yeah.
think about what The Pit and the Pendulum is really about.
Yeah.
It's all about feeling trapped, right?
Right.
Tormented by these forces you can't see or control.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Jones takes that core idea
Yeah.
and drops it right into a dystopian future where, boom,
Yeah.
technology and surveillance become those unseen tormentors.
Oh, that's so clever. Makes it
Okay.
feel so relevant
Yeah,
to our world today.
absolutely.
So in The Edge and the Echo, you've got this activist, Jordan,
Okay.
who's been, like, imprisoned by this shadowy government agency
Oh.
for speaking out against the regime.
Sounds familiar.
And guess what their punishment is?
Oh, boy, what is it?
They get thrown into this high-tech maze, right?
Maze!
Yeah, it's designed to break them psychologically.
It's like the ultimate modern day pit.
Yes,
Wow.
right.
Yeah.
It's like this,
And you know,
go on.
that ever-shifting maze, it's like our own anxieties about technology and control.
Right.
It's like loss of privacy, all that jazz.
It's not the Inquisition anymore.
Yeah.
It's this faceless government agency calling the shots.
Oh, Poe would have a field day with this.
Totally. There's this one scene that had me on the edge of my seat.
Really? What happens?
So Jordan manages to escape from the maze,
Oh, okay.
but ends up trapped on the facility's rooftop
Uh-oh.
with guards closing in on them.
Oh, no.
It's like this crazy, intense
wow.
chase scene.
I can imagine.
It makes you think, like, would we be any braver than Jordan in that situation?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I know, it's so intense. And even though, like,
It's super modern.
yeah, the setting, the tech, it's all modern.
Totally.
Jones still manages to capture that feeling
Yeah.
of claustrophobia and dread
Right.
that Poe is so good at.
Yeah.
You feel like the walls are closing in on you, even though you're just, like, reading the book in your
Yeah.
comfy chair.
It's so well done.
Okay, so another story that I think is worth talking about
Okay, what is it?
is called The Digital Portrait.
The digital portrait.
Yeah, it's inspired by Poe's The Oval Portrait.
Oh.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
this one gets under your skin.
Really? What's
Yeah.
it about?
So it follows these two young photographers, Maya and Liam.
Okay.
They stumble upon this creepy old mansion.
Of course they do.
Right. And inside,
What's inside?
there's this digital portrait
A digital portrait.
that seems to have a life of its own.
Ooh, that's creepy.
Right.
So, like, how does Jones tie this back to Poe?
Well, he takes those themes of obsession,
Yeah.
art, and that blurring between life and death.
Classic Poe.
Exactly. And he brings them into the digital age.
Oh, wow. I see it now.
So instead of a painted portrait, it's a digital one.
A haunted digital portrait. That's so cool.
It is.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect example of how Jones takes these old ideas
Yeah.
and makes them feel fresh and terrifying for modern readers.
I love it. Makes you think about the dark side of technology, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like in Poe's time, it was a painted portrait that captured your soul.
Right.
But now it's all about digital images and AI
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
blurring of what's real and what's virtual.
Exactly. And in the digital portrait,
Yeah.
that whole creation of the digital artwork, well, it's tied to obsession and tragedy, just like in the oval portrait.
Right. You find out the mansion's owner, the
Yep.
guy who lived there before,
Yeah.
he was this, like, tech genius
Okay.
who poured everything into creating this portrait.
Yeah.
It didn't end well for him.
Oh, no. Classic Poe.
It's like, no matter how much technology changes,
Yeah.
people can still get so fixated on their creations that they lose sight of everything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's like a reminder that some things never change.
totally. You know, it's fascinating how Jones manages to connect these classic Poe themes
Yeah.
to our modern anxieties.
Right.
It makes you realize that even though these stories were written ages ago,
Uh-huh.
they still have something to say to us today.
They do. And that's what makes In the Shadow of Poe such a great read, you know?
Totally.
It's not just about spooky stories.
It's deeper than that.
It's about that dark side of human nature.
Yeah.
Which is like both timeless and super relevant to us right now.
Okay, so let me just ask you straight up.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this book to someone who's, like, really into Poe?
Oh, absolutely. In the Shadow of Poe is like required reading for any Poe fan.
Yeah.
It takes those classic tales and just like breathes new life into them, you know?
I agree.
Makes them feel fresh and exciting.
For a modern audience?
Exactly. It's like a testament to Poe's, you know?
A legacy.
Yeah. Like his work can still inspire such creative reimaginings.
And honestly, Jones is a really good writer.
He is.
He knows how to build suspense and keep you hooked.
Totally. I was on the edge of my seat.
Right?
And, you know, even if you've never read Poe before,
Really.
this book is a great way to, like, jump into his world.
It's how to see that.
You know, Jones makes these complex themes and
Yeah.
ideas, like, accessible.
Yeah.
But without losing any of that darkness and psychological depth that Poe is known for.
You know, I'm actually tempted to reread The Pit and the Pendulum now
Oh, yeah.
and compare it to The Edge and the Echo.
That's a great idea. I might do that, too.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about this book.
Is it?
It's like a gateway to, like, this whole world of dark, thought-provoking literature.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate classic storytelling and how those themes can, like, echo across time.
It's wild to think Poe's stories can still feel so relevant today.
I know, right? It's like he was tapping into something, you know?
Yeah. Like those core human fears and anxieties, they don't really change, do they?
They don't. And Jones, he gets that. He
Yeah.
reminds us that good storytelling, it's timeless.
Totally. And that about wraps up our deep dive
It does.
into In the Shadow of Poe.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. Some seriously creepy stories, too. But I think we can agree
Oh, yeah.
this book is more than just,
Yeah.
like, a collection of spooky tales.
For sure.
It really makes you think,
For sure. It's like a deep dive.
right, into human nature. The dark side of our obsessions and fears and
And we deal with the unknown.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So, as you maybe think about picking up In the Shadow of Poe,
Yes.
we want to leave you with this question.
Oh, I like this part.
What other classic stories do you think could be reimagined for a modern audience?
That's a good question.
Like, think about the books you loved growing up.
Yeah.
What would they look like if
Mhm.
they were set in today's world?
I love that.
Right. It's a fun thought experiment.
It is. Like, imagine your favorite fairy tales or
Yeah.
myths or even...
Historical events, even.
Yeah. Getting that, like, Shadow of Poe treatment.
The possibilities are endless.
They are.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed this look
Yeah.
at The Shadow of Poe. Now go forth and explore those shadowy corners of literature.
Happy reading.